Good afternoon, everybody. Really happy to be here. Finished up what I think was a very productive session in the Missouri House of Representatives. As we close out today, some of the things that really pop out in my mind is when we met earlier this year, the Republican conference in the House said our number one priority was to get the abortion HJR done. That was completed yesterday. So we are very happy that that was done. The Missouri voters will have a chance to vote on that measure again, and as our top priority, we were very happy to see that get done. Was also very pleased to see the Proposition A measure passed yesterday in the Senate with the PQ. That was also a priority given how much it affects businesses in Missouri and all of the businesses that employ many of our constituents. So we were able to get 5 or 6 or 7 of the bills that we had behind done today, and then as we go out, I think all of the Republicans we met this morning, our heads are held high. We're very happy with the session that just took place. I think if you look at this session as opposed to the previous sessions that we've had in the last 2 or 3 years, I think this was much more productive. Things ran much more smoothly. I give a lot of credit to the leadership team that we have here, our membership. I give a lot of credit to the Senate and the Senate leadership. I think we were able to work through a lot of things, get bills done early, and then at the end finish what we needed to do. So very happy to be going home today to our families and our constituents, and would be very happy to answer any questions that you guys have before we leave.
What do you think about the Senate adjourning 2 days early, leaving some priorities, some unfinished business out there? Was it worth it to have the abortion proposal, the paid sick leave proposal pass in exchange for some of these other top priorities not making it across the finish line, like tort bills you've talked about, open enrollment, that kind of stuff?
Well, one of the things that I don't think we do is we don't think about what the Senate's doing. We can't control that. We can only control what we're doing. They left yesterday, and we can't spend our time thinking about that. We took up the bills that we had. We were able to pass those. And, given the dynamics of previous Senates that we've had, I think what happened this year with getting things done early, that really helped things. So still very pleased with what we were able to do, even though the Senate left yesterday.
The way in which the Chiefs Stadium bill was rolled out in the last days of session with abortion and minimum wage still on the table, did that imperil that project from the start? It
might have. We thought we could get it before we had to deal with those issues, but those are priorities, so they were going to take priority over the stadium. I would have liked to have gotten that done, and we'll just see what happens in the coming months. But maybe getting it done a week earlier. I spoke with Senator Lukemeyer earlier today, and we thought maybe if that had happened a week earlier, that would have been better. But you can't dwell on things that we can't control, so we'll just see what happens going forward.
Senate Appropriations Chair Lincoln Huff expressed a lot of unhappiness and anger over the stadium proposal, considering the House did not pick up House Bill 19 and pass it. Response to that, do you think that really hindered the ability of the stadium to get across?
No, I don't think so. I think, and if you think about it, the people that want the provisions of House Bill 19 should also want the stadium bill, given that both of them have to do with taking care of people and bringing in revenue and expansion to the state that would help the people that we're all trying to help. I have not talked to Senator Huff since last week. I've heard some things about maybe bad feelings, but I have all of the respect in the world for Senator Huff. I have a respect for our process, and that's, I think, why we did what we did last week. I would love to talk with Senator Huff and make sure that going forward we have a good relationship. We have another session to get through, so definitely want to reach out to him. But in terms of the stadium bill and the House bill that didn't get passed, I don't think they necessarily had anything to do with each other.
Governor Kehoe has said he's going to said he was going to call a special session if that stadium proposal didn't pass. Several people have said to me, members of the Senate, that without House Bill 19 as part of a special session, they don't want to consider the stadium proposal. If the governor does call a special session, would your advice be to include appropriations in the call?
Well, I'll tell you what, Rudy, for the next week, I don't want to think about anything to do with Jefferson City. I've advised our members to go home, prioritize their families and their constituents. After that, if the governor does feel the need to call an extraordinary session, we in the House will work with him and try to get something done. But I think we just finished up this session. Let's take a little bit of a breather, and then if we're called to do it, the House Republicans will meet our obligations and try to get something done.
You don't see an appropriation bill as an absolute must if there is a special session.
I think all the options are in play, and that might be one of the things that's necessary to get that done.
The House didn't. Go ahead.
Regarding Amendment 3 and Proposition A, some Missouri residents are asking what's the point of voting when they see actions like yesterday. What's your response to that?
Well, I think, if you're for people voting, then you have to be for people voting even when they disagree with you. And one of the nice things about the HJR that we passed is it has to go back to a vote of the people. So as someone that didn't vote for it, I feel very comfortable knowing that whatever happens, it will reflect the voice of the people. And I do want to just say, with Amendment 3 back in last November, had it not passed, I think many of my colleagues on the Democratic side have said they would have brought it back and tried to do it again. And so I don't think anyone can complain when another thing is put on the ballot. And they've been very clear, if this were to pass, that they would come back and try to change that. As long as people get the chance to vote and have their say, I'm very comfortable with what we're doing.
Regarding Proposition A not going back on the ballot box, like Amendment 3 is, voters kind of feel like they're shortchanged there with sick leave provisions just being held back. They don't get to have their voice again. What do you say?
Well, they do get to have their voice. They get to go out and vote for their elected representatives, and they come to Jefferson City and make decisions. And I think what I see with what we did with the Prop A, I see it as a compromise. So the minimum wage is in place, but the sick leave, which I contend is very damaging to businesses, that's been repealed. I would have liked to have seen something maybe more of a compromise on the sick leave provisions. That wasn't possible, so they just took the bill that we sent over there. As a physician, I want people that are sick to be able to stay home and not have to work. The way that it was done in Prop A, it just was not workable. So I hope in the future what we see is something where employees are able to get their sick leave, but maybe not have the mandates that it did in
You would ask for. Have been critical of the Prop A vote and the capital gains legislation, the capital projects bill dying. And basically the argument seems to be that the Republicans are more concerned about looking out for wealthy people than they are about working people. What's your response to that?
Well, let me start with the capital gains bill. That bill had the exemptions for state capital gains liabilities, but it also had an expansion and an extension of the circuit breaker, which a lot of low-income folks here in Missouri and people that I represent take advantage of. It also had the sales tax exemptions for diapers and feminine products, which I think are very pro-family. So when I look at that, I see things that help lower-income people. And then as the pro tem has said many times, when you cut taxes, people reinvest that money. So one of the things that I find that older people like to do, and as my parents age, they love to remodel their house. They love to tinker with what they do. Well, every time you do that, someone has to have a job getting those appliances and all the things you need to build that, and they have to come in and build it, and it helps people in all phases of life and all incomes. So I was very happy to see that bill pass.
So are you worried about political backlash at all because of that messaging from Democrats?
No, because I think we've been very clear. Circuit breaker, sales tax exemptions on diapers and feminine products, I think those are things that are really attractive to all segments of society.
Regarding the language on House JR 73, do you think that's going to stand up to any legal scrutiny, especially because the language doesn't say it would ban most abortions, which is what this would do?
Yeah. I do not know what the courts will do. I think our floor leader probably knows better, and I'd be happy to have him talk with you about that, but I never know what the courts will do.
I would love an answer on that.
I mean, I think the short answer is you don't ever know what the courts are going to do. So they could uphold it, but if you have a court that wants to overturn it, I think a court will find an opportunity and a reason to create the result that they want.
Mr. Speaker, the Prop A fix, you wanted that addressed in the Senate before the House would take up the downtown revitalization bill, the Main Street bill. That ended up not coming to pass. What do you tell the communities that had projects that could have benefited from that about what will happen next?
Well, what I would tell them is part of that legislation was to attract businesses to take up as tenants in that revitalization project. You can't tell businesses we want you to move here and then hurt businesses with things like the sick leave provisions of Prop A. So it didn't make sense to me to be doing both. I was very supportive of that legislation. I hope it's something that we pursue in the future, but it just didn't make sense for me to do that without doing the other.
Why not do it today?
Well, I just think in terms of moving the bill, in our rules, you couldn't do it in one day.
The House didn't pass Senate Bill 10, which would have removed the sunsets on numerous provisions. Why?
Yeah. That was legislation that I supported. One, I support getting rid of the sunset on the FRA so that other legislatures don't have to deal with that. I'm also very supportive of getting rid of the sunset on the transgender legislation that we've passed. Even though I didn't support it initially, I think going forward, having the thought of bouncing back and forth between legislation allowing it and not having to discuss it every year isn't helpful to the kids that are having problems with that. So I was in favor of getting rid of the sunset on that. Ultimately, I think it just had too many other things within the bill for it to pass, and it just didn't get done. But I would like to see something get done where we get rid of the sunset on the FRA so that future legislatures don't have to deal with that. And I would like to see the sunset on that expire, on the transgender expire as well. And if future legislatures decide that the transgender medicine is something that we should do, they can always just reinstall it.
Wasn't the Boulder Award also attached to that?
Yes, it was, and we weren't able to get that done. We'll have to see about getting it done in the future, whether there's a special session, whether that's part of it, but that's something that I think we should get done as someone who lives in Kansas City.
What's your biggest disappointment in terms of a bill not passing, besides the Chiefs?
Yeah. Well, one of the things, I'm not sure it's the biggest, but the thing that's most recent in my mind is that bill. One of the things that we haven't talked about is the amateur sports tax credit. I think if Missouri is going to have NCAA tournaments, that's a necessity, and we didn't get that done. So maybe we should worry about getting that done in the near future. But yeah, I would rather they have NCAA regional tournaments in St. Louis and Kansas City instead of having them in Des Moines or Omaha. But I think you need that legislation to have those.
Representative Riley, by the August 28th, the provisions of Prop A mean that everybody who is accruing sick leave now will have, over those 680 hours working full-time in those 17 weeks, approximately 2 2/3 days of sick leave time. If this bill is challenged, do you think that the constitutional right to not be deprived of a vested property right is an issue that could be raised?
Well, I think that's an interesting question, but I don't think we'll know yet until the courts rule on it. So again, same as the answer to the prior question, it's going to have to work its way through the court system, and we'll see what they do.
What do you think will happen to Missouri businesses if everybody who has 2+ days of sick time takes it all on August 20th and 21st?
Yeah, that will be an issue.
Well, I guess it would, but I mean, could it have a serious repercussion on people getting services and such if the people who are losing their sick time show what they do for Missouri every day?
So I think if you have a very coordinated effort where everyone would do that, then that would have an impact.
What do you think that impact would be?
I think we would have to see how many people were engaged in the coordinated effort.
Well, Rudy, I'm just a country surgeon, but I believe if the law is that you get the sick leave, you ought to be able to get the sick leave, and people should be able to redeem those hours. I'm not sure that's a legal question, but I think if you have it, even after August 28th, I think businesses should honor what was the law.
So you don't think people will lose their accrued sick leave as of August midnight at 12:01 a.m.
As a country surgeon, I do not think they would do that. And as someone that's run a business, I think if you did that, you would lose employees. And then I think when you say people taking off 2.5 hours all at once, I think that's an argument for our case because that's what would happen. If your nurse is taking care of your mother in the hospital, says, I want to take an hour off during the middle of the day for a medical reason, and you can't do anything about that, is one of the things we found really harmful about that. So what I would like to see is some form of sick leave that takes care of both the employee, but make sure that the employer isn't hurt and the businesses aren't negatively affected by the law.
In what way is the fact that HJR 73 includes abortion and transgender health care in the same, how is that not a violation of the single subject?
Well, I think they both have to do with reproductive health care, and that's how I would look at it. They both have to do with reproductive systems, and I think if it was both on the ballot, I think it would be perfectly legitimate, but again, that'll be up to the courts.
Do you really feel that in November, when Missouri voters voted Amendment 3, they didn't realize what they were voting for?
No, as I've said all along, I think Missourians are smart. I think they knew exactly what they were voting for, and that they were voted for the option that they've had. They will now have another option, and they will know exactly what is on there. And I trust Missourians. I trust Missourians to be able to read ballot language and make decisions for themselves. That's why I don't feel bad that they're going to have another option about doing this, because I know my people back in Lee Summit. I know people at home. They're smart. I mean, they get things, and I think they'll make the decision that they feel is right.
You voted.
Place it before voters, before November 26th, or do you think they should wait until the general election next year?
The general election in 2026?
Yeah, the Prop A or the HJR 73 would go on November 26th or earlier if the governor calls a special.
Right, and that'll be up to the governor and the people of Missouri.
Recommendation that it go earlier?
I'm not going to make any recommendations to the governor on when he puts it on the ballot. Sarah, did you have one?
Well, mine was that you voted no on that HJR because you said you were voting for your district. So do you expect your district to not approve of this amendment?
If I were guessing, I don't think they would approve of it. I also do want to mention, personally, I think if we're allowing it for a rape exception, I think we should have had a debate about, is 12 weeks enough? Should it be 14, 15? Just because when you find out you're pregnant after you've been raped, do you have the time to make a doctor's appointment, get in, and get the necessary procedures or treatments that you need? That's a legitimate debate. Now that I think that we can all have here in the General Assembly, we've decided that exceptions are something that we're going to have. So I just had some trouble about the weeks, 12, 14, 15 weeks, and that's why ultimately I didn't vote for it. But again, I feel very strongly that Missourians should have another vote at it, and that's what we did in this session.
You voted against this bill, but you voted for the 2019 abortion law. Why did you vote for that and not this?
Well, that was, back at that time, we did not think there was any chance that Roe would be overturned. So it did have the heartbeat bill. I supported that. But I think what's happened since the Dobbs decision is that we've made a decision that we support exceptions. I support exceptions as well. And now the debate moving forward, as I've said, seems to be between, closer between the 40-yard lines. No one's talking about an abortion ban here. That's not what this is about. People have a choice on whether they think that it should be allowed with exceptions or not.
I'm curious, so is this correct? If a girl under HJR 73, if a girl was raped through incest, would she have to get permission from her rapist to go get an abortion?
If they're underage?
Underage, yeah.
No, I think it would go through the court system, and they would have to get a guardian and to make those decisions. It would not be up to the rapist. But again, I think that if it's a minor,
if the guardian is the rapist, and it's
no, it would go through the court system, and they would get someone that can represent them. But again, Do you have enough time at 12 weeks to get all that done? I think you could question whether they have enough time to do that.
So are you a yes or a no when this goes to the ballot?
Am I voting for it? I'm going to make my decision when it comes there, but I didn't support the legislation here.
We're going to take one last question.
What's your message to the Chiefs and the Royals between now and the end of June?
I don't have any messages to the Chiefs and Royals. I do have a message to the people of Missouri and the people of Lee Summit. I think these are sports teams. There's only 32 NFL teams in the world. There's only 30 baseball teams in the world. We have a chance to have 2 of them in the Kansas City region. I think it's worth doing things that put us in a position to be able to have these teams for all of the economic development and jobs that they bring to the area. These are arguments that you can have given that it is taxpayer dollars, but ultimately I do think they benefit Kansas City and Lee Summit and Missouri, and that's why we tried to do what we did. I think we'll continue to try to do that because overall I think it is a net benefit for Missouri.
Kason had one more question.
One quick one. Yesterday, in sort of the waning hours of negotiations on the so-called global deal about what was happening, Governor Kehoe was walking around to senators' offices. I saw you go into Senator Luetkemeier's office, I believe. Were you involved in negotiations at all on either HJR 73, Prop A, or the stadiums deal?
No, I wasn't involved in any global negotiations, and I don't think anybody, Governor Kehoe, Senate leadership, would ever tie HJR 73 abortion to have anything to do with the stadium. So I think that's a little overstated. But I wasn't part of that. But I do know that nobody would ever give up our fight for pro-life causes with a sports team. All right.
If you wanted to book a vacation this summer, when would you not do it if you want to monitor or be a part of a special session?
I probably wouldn't do it between June 1st and June 30th. That's a good question. And with that, hey, thanks, guys. Thank you for a great session, and we'll see you probably soon. Thanks.